No emotion is good or bad. They simply are what they are. We tend to pick up a lot of beliefs about our own emotions from culture, teachers, parents, and various people as we grow up. And if we do not have accurate information about emotions, this tends to distort our view of ourselves, and it tends to corrode the relationship we have between us and our emotions. Now, let's get on to this first point, which is learn to observe and fully feel them. Understand how to flow and move with them to master them. Stop fighting and resisting them. Start with the basics. Learn to observe emotions. When you're angry, when you're sad, when you're happy, regardless of the emotion, notice that you can simply witness your actual state. You can feel the emotions in your body. They're located in your body, and you can actively and intentionally feel them. Or you can distract yourself from them, you can pull away from them, and you can run from them. And if you choose to actively feel them, this is a significantly wiser move because you are actually cultivating a deeper connection to yourself. You're going to actually boost your overall clarity of how your emotions function and be able to utilize them to your own advantage rather than have them control you. So you fully feel them by moving into your body, bringing awareness into your body, to your sensations, and actually focusing on the sense of feeling rather than what your thoughts have to say about the emotion. Understand how to flow and move with them. This means that emotions are like a flowing energy. When you feel into your body, you can feel flux and flow of sensations and a subjective sort of energy moving through you. You want to get in touch with exactly that and remain with this flow. And you don't want to resist the flow. You don't want to fight it. You don't want to push or pull on it. You just want to remain with it and let it flow naturally. You don't want to seize control of it. This is a misunderstanding. Whenever people think of control your emotions, there's a very easy misunderstanding of twisting them and gaining like just power over them. Really, controlling your emotions has a lot to do with remaining in contact and active feeling with them and not disassociating yourself from them. Moving on, notice your judgments of emotions. Example, crying is weak, anger is bad, happiness is good. These judgments are the problem, not the emotion. Like I said, we tend to develop a lot of beliefs about emotions that are bullshit. We don't want to listen to what our mind is telling us when it comes to our emotions, like crying is weak, real men don't cry, or like anger's bad, you shouldn't be angry. These are just classic beliefs that our minds have been filled up with about emotions that really are detrimental to our emotional intelligence, our ability to develop ourselves, our ability to cultivate meaningful relationships to other people and ourselves, and really overall for our health and just our sense of, feeling good. So you want to notice judgments that you have about how you feel, and you want to notice that by doing this, you are just attacking yourself. And you want to notice the cycle of judging something that you feel or don't feel, and just begin to become aware of this and slowly stop doing it. Slowly and gradually make the change of stop doing it, basically ending this cycle. You do that by becoming more aware of your thoughts through, let's say, a meditation practice. And really, your judgments of your emotions are not true. Your judgment is a construct. It's something that you've made up, whereas your emotion is just like a raw energy in your body, completely distinct from that construct. Now, the constructs and the ideas we have about emotions can help us, or they can really screw us over, depending on the idea. But when it comes to getting in touch with our emotions and cultivating emotional intelligence, we have to really use both thinking and feeling. We need a theory of emotional intelligence and emotions and all this stuff, and it has to be a great theory. And we also need to have the practical skills of moving into our body, actively feeling what's there, and being able to release repressed emotions. This moves on to learn to cry and not care about judgments. Master the art of not weaponizing anger. Realize how your emotions manipulate yourself and others. Fully surrender and feel them in order to embrace them and transmute them. So learn to cry, not care about judgments. I remember when I was young and I was growing up, and a lot of people would tell me, like, stop crying, you shouldn't cry, you shouldn't be angry, things like this. And these are just very natural emotions to humans. These are very authentic and just perfectly normal emotions. They're completely natural. And I began to develop beliefs about this stuff, and I began to repress them because I was shamed for, let's say, crying when I was young or getting angry. And I needed really someone to help me when it came to my emotions, help me to understand them, help me to feel them, help me to express them in healthy ways. I didn't need the shaming. I didn't need these dumb beliefs that I shouldn't feel this way or that they're bad. And really, there's a lot of dumb beliefs about emotions, like, real men don't cry or crying is weak. And really, if you can cry and not give a shit, this is probably the deepest sign of emotional maturity. If you can fully and authentically express an emotion without weaponizing it, without caring about a judgment that people have of you, without trying to utilize the situation, your emotion really, to get a thing that you want and just extract value, if you can fully and authentically express it and remain in contact with yourself, this is one of the deepest signs of genuine emotional maturity. If you are, let's say, sad and you can't cry, I'm not saying every time you get sad you have to cry, but let's say something happens to you in your life, the end of a relationship you really care about, or something tragic. If you can't cry, there's a block there. And there's a lot of really toxic ideas around, how men shouldn't cry. And I'm not saying that when someone calls you a name, you should start crying or just complain about your emotions, give up on life and start crying. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that there are times where it's natural, spontaneous, and authentic to cry, and people simply have blocks around this. I'll give you a story that I heard by a guy named Adyashanti. So he went to a Zen meditation retreat center, and one of the Zen masters was telling a story, and he began to cry. And shortly after, he stopped crying, and he moved on with his life. It's almost like he was able to flow and move without any resistance to the emotion he was experiencing. Let it arise, let it pass, and then something else took its place, and then something else took its place. Let's say he, was sad, and then it came and it went, and he had no resistance, no judgment, no self-hatred for feeling that way. He was able to fully embrace exactly what he was feeling when he was feeling it, let it come, let it go, express it completely authentically, not push it onto people, not try and shame people, not try and attack people based off how he's presently feeling, but it just came up, he expressed it, and then it went. This is precisely what I'm talking about when I say learn to cry and not care about judgments. This is true, deep, emotional maturity, and really the more psychologically evolved version of, masculinity. Whereas some less evolved versions of masculinity are just overly brutal, overly forceful, and just emotionally disconnected. And this has nothing to do with crying because, you're like a little weakling, really, or someone calls you a name that you didn't like and you cry. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is there are simply moments when it is natural, authentic, and spontaneous to shed a tear. And if you are incapable of that, there is an emotional block. Crying is not weakness. Crying is completely natural. And I want to paint a very clear picture of what I'm talking about here when I say crying. This does not mean curling up into a little ball, complaining about all your problems, blaming people, and then, just giving up. That's not what this is. There can be things that genuinely make you sad and you cry. And it's that simple. It's just that simple. Someone passes away, it makes you cry. You have to end a relationship, it makes you cry. Something is very difficult and it makes you cry, and a tear is shed. And you're completely able to express it with a perfect sense of contact with the emotion and flow. So master the art of not weaponizing anger, not weaponizing emotions, not using them to manipulate people, not using them to simply extract value. Learn to actually embrace them and move with them, flow with them in order to transmute them, in order for them to simply come and go and be released. Because the emotions actually are stored in your body. Repressed emotions don't go anywhere. If your gut is tense and held, if your shoulders are raised, if your body feels kind of numb in certain areas, you don't feel sensations, there's repressed emotions around those areas. A lot of emotionally well people have deep contact with their bodies because, their bodies are where their emotions are. If you have trouble feeling your body, if it's tense, rigid, held in artificial positions. There's stored emotions there that you need to really begin to come into contact with by actively feeling those parts of your body over and over and over again. Meditation is a great practice for this. Moving on, shut up and feel. Stop intellectualizing emotions when it isn't necessary. Know when to use your mind and when to stop using it. Stop trying to be quote unquote rational. This is emotional avoidance due to a fear of truly coming into contact with them. So shut up and feel, very direct. It's important to have accurate ideas about emotions, but it's also important to just shut up and feel them, because we easily use our mind to escape our body. We use our sort of abstract mental realm to escape the present moment and really just coming into contact with our body, our sensations, our emotions, and the actual sense of presence right now. And really, you want to master both domains. You don't want to pick one over the other. You want to master both. And in order to really master both, you have to shut up and feel. You can't always listen to your mind. You can't always get lost in your thoughts. You have to actively bring awareness into your body and feel what is there. And really, when a lot of people want to be rational, they don't want to, oh, it's just too emotional, let's be rational. This is a little bit of avoidance here. You can detect that they're just coming from this abstract space rather than from a grounded, integrated space, a space that is integrated, a space that actually uses the mind, uses emotions, and synergizes these two. It basically integrates both of them instead of being one or the other. Moving on, is emotional mastery is about fully contacting your emotions and allowing yourself to spontaneously and authentically express them. Social conditioning and fear has prevented you from doing this. So, as we have grown up, we've basically developed a lot of fear around our own subjectivity, around feeling our emotions. We escape our emotions through internet, social media, food, friends, TV, Netflix, video games, porn. I think I might have mentioned junk food, just overeating in general. We have a lot of amazing strategies for avoiding our emotions, even just self-deception, deluding yourself. Let's be rational. This is avoidance mechanism. I'm not advocating for being irrational. I'm advocating for integrating emotions and rationality, bringing the two together instead of being so disconnected. There's that split there when you're disconnected. There's a sense of lack of internal harmony and wanting to escape oneself. Rather, we can just integrate both these parts. When it comes to emotional mastery, you need to fully be in contact with what you're naturally feeling in the moment, with your body, with your sensations, not project them onto other people, you want to not judge yourself for how you feel. You don't want to be blaming others. That's very important. And you want to spontaneously and authentically express them as they arise without self-judgment and without fear. Authenticity is you being yourself without fear, without the fear of judgment. That's a massive aspect of authenticity. And even though growing up, people could have traumatized you, people could have done brutal things to you, and people can still do that, I highly recommend taking the path of not blaming them. You can notice when people make mistakes, and I'd recommend getting out of toxic situations, but you don't want to blame people for the circumstances you're in or else you're trapped. It's a much better idea to just take responsibility and have a sense of accountability for where you are so that you can actually have a sense of control and begin to make effective changes rather than playing the victim. And really, it's very important to recognize that life is difficult for practically everyone, that people have various problems. People are very confused about how to solve their problems. People have problems that they don't even recognize are problems, and you have to be able to forgive them. And it's really hard to actually forgive people if they've done horrible things to you, said horrible things to you, and they've impacted you in negative ways. But at one point, as you wisen up emotionally, it'll naturally feel good to just forgive people for the errors that they've made. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't hold them accountable for the errors that they made. I would highly recommend holding people accountable. If they're in your life, hold them accountable for the mistakes that they're making. If they're hurting you, you vocalize that, you let them know. But I wouldn't really go as far as to blame people for your circumstances. I'd highly recommend avoiding that one at all costs, and instead learning how to effectively solve your problems through study, meditation, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, learning from teachers and various sources. That's it for this video. Take it easy.